Howdy, howdy. Welcome.
And thank you for joining.
We're just talking about how to increase group travel profitability in a sense that there's many ways to increase group travel profits, right? One of them can be by setting the price right, not underselling your trips, charging just the amount that you need to be charging in order to make those group trips profitable. Because a lot of people just set a price and try to fill in the groups and put a pricing just to fill in, but that doesn't mean the trip's going to be profitable exactly. Right, Javier?
Right. I think the main point is just basically knowing how much of what you are selling goes into your profit account and then how you distribute that money that goes into your profit account. Basically, because a lot of times what I see is people try to compete to sell the cheapest price. And it looks like a lot on paper without profit. It's nothing. You're just running around and it's stressful and you're really not getting compensated for your efforts. And I've seen it firsthand, a lot of people when you plan trips for them, it's very, especially if they're people who are close to you or, they'll ask you for a discount but you need to remember that this is your time, your knowledge, with Expedia, will the agent from Expedia be there holding their hand when they need something? Possibly not. So all of that has a value and it needs to be reflected on your pricing. I mean, for our programs, we do around 30% profit markup of the overall value of the quote. And that works pretty well because usually some of that you put back into the business. Another part of it is what you pay yourself. And then, you can leave part of it as just to have as a reserve in case of anything. It's otherwise, if your margins are too thin and there's an incident, like how are you going to respond to whatever situation, right? What are your thoughts?
I think you're making a good point, several good points. But regarding the emergency fund per se, how much should group travel operators reserve for emergencies on unforeseen expenses?
Yeah, I mean, usually I would say of that profit account, like just to make things easier, and it may vary depending on your particular business model and the risks involved. But because all of our travelers are insured and we have insurance in case of any major event, uh, which protects us somehow. But I would distribute it evenly, like 10% you pay yourself, 10% you can put back into your business to gradually grow its value and reinvest in those things that are strategic, and 10% you leave off as a kind of rainy day fund in a way while the trip is underway. Once the trip completes and once no incidents happen, which is for the most part, I mean, it's if you have all the checks and balances, it's quite unlikely you need to use it. But once the trip is over and people are back and they're happy, you can then distribute that 10% back to yourself or, put part of it into business. But the idea is that you won't feel unprotected if there's an incident and something goes on and you need to act fast. You need to have the resources to do that.
Yeah, that is very true. A lot of unforeseen expenses can happen.
Yeah. I mean, like maybe one flight was late and you missed an event, so you need to rebook or and a lot of the times you can get reimbursements from suppliers, or as I said, insurance, or sometimes the travelers understand and they understand the extra expense which would cost them. However, it's good to know that you have the capacity to act if there is an unforeseen circumstance. If there is, it's better to know you're prepared, than to
Yeah,
be scrambling around when the moment comes.
yeah, exactly. And why do you think that tour operators struggle so much to set the right margins for their tour business?
I think it is because a lot of times I see people struggle to charge adequate value for whatever the skills are. Sometimes, I mean, maybe it's human nature, but I see a lot that when people are really good at something, they would say, "Well, it didn't cost me anything to do it because it's effortless to me. It's second nature. It's easy. So I
Mm.
give it away." But it shouldn't be that way. In fact, I mean, perhaps take that as a sign that that's what you're meant to be doing, and it should be charging for it. So it's, I don't know what your thoughts are on this, but I think that's one thing. The other one is that maybe they have the wrong clients. I mean, as a travel advisor or a group travel advisor or whatever, you will never match Expedia.
Yeah,
There's no way you can compete with Expedia or with Booking or with hotels.com or anything else. So don't try to match them. So if you
yeah,
want to book through me, this is what you get on top of that. This is how I will support you. And this is why it costs extra. I mean, those people who try to haggle with you, they have jobs too. Then flip the question around and say, okay, what do you do for a living? You work in construction. Okay, so will you build a house for me? Just quoting the cost of the building materials. So, I mean, they won't. So why would it be any different?
that is a very good point as well.
It's like, okay, if you are an investment manager, will you manage my money for free? No. Why
Yeah,
would
exactly.
you? If you're making returns for me, I want you to win something. So it should be the same mentality, I think, in this field. And there just needs to be perhaps a bit more business literacy as to how that can happen so that clients respect your time.
Yes, yes, yes. Like it can be, I understand that how those kind of efforts can be rationalized as a marketing expense, but there's a degree where it's counterproductive, right? Like you should be charging properly. And yes, every now and then you can do certain efforts and like sacrifice that as marketing expenses, like certain trips and such for certain people. But you just need to be having healthy margins so that you can grow your business sustainably and not be sacrificing so much of your margins for
Yeah.
irrational market ventures.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. Yeah. And the thing is, like, as you were saying, like sometimes you might treat something as a strategic investment. So, and maybe incur a loss, but you know that what you're doing is an investment on something. And don't do it just because you're blindly going through the motions. So I'll give you an example. When I opened around 10 years ago, we had a lot of demand for trips to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, the Middle East in general. So the first group I took to Dubai, it was only 8 people, but I knew I needed to do it. So I ran it with 8 people. We didn't make much money on it. I went. So basically it was an expense, but it was an investment that showing what we were capable of doing in that region of the world. And once we had the videos, once we had all the proof that, let's say, that we could run a great program and a great experience, the next time we took a group to Dubai, we took 70 people. So it was an investment that paid off, but it was always treated that way.
Yeah,
So you have to know sometimes if you're going to, let's say, make an adjustment to what your financial uh, projections are, let's say, you need to know why and what do you expect in return for making that additional investment. So in my case, I just knew that if we had the right proof, let's say, that we could run great trips over there, that demand would skyrocket and that would happen. So it was a worthwhile investment. But if I just had run the trip and I didn't have a vision in mind for what was next, or if there was no as a potential return, like why would I run a trip at a loss? There's no point.
yeah, yeah, yeah. It's just saying it's to be for very strategic kind of efforts, which can pay off,
Yeah.
but you
Yeah.
gotta be really conscious about it, not like a generalized business strategy.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, if you're conscious about what you're doing, and it just gives you a better vision of how to do things. And there might be other situations in which you feel the need to do the same, but then you have to treat at the end of the day, any time and energy and money you put into a project, you have to treat it as an investment. What am I getting back?
Yeah.
And then that helps you evaluate what you want to be doing. Anyhow.
You need to be really careful about making those decisions because yeah, it can cost you significantly in the long term.
Yeah, well, also the other thing, yeah, you need to be very wise when budgeting your capital in this industry. As I learned the hard way when I was starting out 14 years ago, and you have to be very mindful of potential additional expenses. You have to be also very mindful of potential or very likely additional time expenses. Your investment into a project, especially when it's running, it may only go up if you don't have the right partners in place or the right structure in place, you may need to be sorting out files at 3 in the morning your time because your clients are in Australia. That's why having also a good structure beforehand is good. But think about that. Think about that potential extra time you might need to put into the project for it to be successful. Consider that when you are making your calculations for how much the trip is going to pay you.
Yeah. That needs to be defined really early on, right? Like define your monetization model before you start investing substantially into the trip product. Make sure you're making the right investment for the right kind of market, for the right kind of activities and such. That you know that if you charge $1,000 for this dinner, your audience is gonna pay for it because you already talked to them and they expressed that they specifically wanted that kind of
Yeah.
experience.
And then the other thing is also, it's super simple, but a lot of people don't do it because they feel awkward doing it. And I understand them and I used to think that way, but it's just ask your clients what their budget is. Ask them directly, how much are you willing to spend on this trip? It will save you hours of back and forth. And then you can just say, for the amount you specify, this is what I can offer. This is the best I can offer. And usually that will help you get somewhere because then
Exactly.
there's a transparent channel, and if you just quote blindly, well, you might send a $10,000 quote to somebody who only can pay 5,000.
Exactly.
Yeah, and a lot of people don't see that. As I said, it's very simple, but I've seen it very often, and I just think it would save you a lot of time. It would save you from clients who are not aligned with what you have, and it's just because it takes time to put a proposal together, to research a destination, to quote with your partners. It takes time, and it's very frustrating when you quote for nothing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so ideally, we would like to minimize that as much as possible. It's wasted time at the end of the day. So
Exactly. I completely agree. You gotta plan that from the beginning early on so that you are more efficient with your time, with your resources. Time is invaluable. I'm just saying, you're trying to enhance the return on the investment on the time you're investing on creating a new travel product. Whether that be a trip, a tour, hotel experience, kind of activity. The earlier you design the monetization on it, the better the results will be because you are doing the market research, you're doing the product development correctly based on that research and that willingness to pay from the customer and the such, right? I think these are really helpful and interesting topics. And thank you so much for your time today, Javier. Got some good tips for the people.